Shri Caitanya-caritāmṛta ki jai. Their most merciful Lordship, Shri Hare Kṛṣṇa ki jai. Shri Jagannath, Shri Mahā-mantra ki jai. Shri Nataji, Shri Prabhupāda ki jai. Shri Śrīla ki jai. Yataya Go Prema. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Lord Spirit of Shri Guru and Shri Jai Jai Shri Caitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Caitanya, Jai Gaurabhata Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Caitanya, Jai Gaurabhata Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Caitanya, Jai Gaurabhata Vrinda. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. I'm going to be reading this evening from Śrī Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the Ādi-līlā, chapter 3, beginning at verse 77. I'm just going to read the English translations. Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya is the initiator of Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. One who worships him through Sankirtan is fortunate indeed. Such a person is truly intelligent, whereas others who have had a poor fund of knowledge must endure the cycle of repeated birth and death. Of all sacrificial performances, the chanting of the Lord's holy name is the most sublime. One who says that 10 million Ashwamedha sacrifices are equal to the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is undoubtedly an atheist. He is sure to be punished by Yamaraj. I'm going to read the purport here to get the understanding of what is being said in this purport. how valuable this name and this mahā-mantra that we are chanting, given by Lord Caitanya, so that we may know the power of this mahā-mantra. In the list of the 10 kinds of offenses in chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hare Kṛṣṇa, the 8th offense is dharma-vrata ja utari-sartamu kriya sanyam api-pramada. One should never consider the chanting of the holy name of Godhead equal to pious activities, like giving charity to Brahmins or saintly persons, opening charitable educational institutions, distributing free food, and so on. The results of pious activities do not equal the results of chanting the holy name of Krishna. The Vedic scriptures say, Go kuti dhanam garnai gagasya prayat go daka kalpavasa yagnayitam meru suvarnitam govindakirtarna samam katam sa. Even if one distributes 10 million cows in charity during an eclipse of the sun, lives at the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna for millions of years, or gives a mountain of gold in sacrifice to the Brahmins, he does not earn 100th part of the merit derived from chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa. In other words, one who accepts the chanting of Hare Kṛṣṇa to be the same kind of pious activity is completely misled. Of course, it is pious, but the real fact is that Krishna and his name, being transcendental, are far above all mundane pious activity. Pious activity is on the material platform, but chanting of the holy name of Krishna is completely on the spiritual plane. Therefore, although Paishandis do not understand this, pious activity can never compare to the chanting of the holy name. And when we read Bhagavad Gita and we take into consideration that Krishna came at that time in the very beginning of Kali Yuga to end. This was Treta, right? Well, they switched places, but it was Treta Yuga, basically. But he had not given the holy name of the chanting. Now think about this. All the people that were on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were gaining personal association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being on the planet at the self-same time as Krishna himself was. Now we have a count. We read, everyone here and everyone who hears this message, you know, we give class here every morning at 8 o'clock. And anyone who wants is welcome to come and hear Śrīmad Bhagavatam. So in Śrīmad Bhagavatam we have seen, in our recent readings, one such associate of Lord Krishna, who is Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj took birth as the son of Dharmaraj, who is Yamaraj on the planet, in control of the lower planetary systems that are all made of So they were having a relationship there as well. And all of these associates that were on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, they had attained what would be called pious activities, to be able to gain the ability to even come on the planet at the same time the Supreme Personality of Godhead is coming, means that these were the souls Krishna chose to be with him on the planet at that particular time. You are the souls Krishna is choosing to give this most powerful mantra ever. The most powerful mantra ever. And that is what's being described here in this verse. It is so powerful. One Ashwamedha sacrifice is performed on the planet with hundreds of warriors to support the king who is performing the sacrifice to challenge any other kings on the whole planet if they want to rule the planet. And if there are no challenges, then the person who sent the king, who sent out the horse, would then become ruler. This verse says, ruler of the entire planet. This verse says that the chanting of mahā-mantra is more powerful than millions of those sacrifices. So see, what an opportune situation this puts us in, to be able to have from Krishna himself, passing this down personally from master to disciple to us, this most powerful mantra to give knowledge that had not previously been given. And Lord Caitanya brings us to the knowledge to show us the means of getting completely removed from the material universe altogether, which in previous ages was described as the reward for engaging in pious activities, would be to gain some elevated position within this material universe. And as elevated as that may sound, it's still contained within this material universe, which is entirely subject to, it is Murtyaloka described as the place of death. But this mahā-mantra has the ability to remove us from this place altogether. And so that is the superiority of this that is being given in the chanting of these holy names. And so, if we make an honest comparison of all the other spiritual paths that are being offered in the world, none of them have anything to offer us. But we have for them a process. This chanting of Hare Kṛṣṇa is a scientific process for the benefit of all human beings, no matter what religion you are in, no matter whether you are an atheist, no matter whether you're a secular person who has never had any previous experience with what teachings of God are or not. By the taking up of the chanting of these holy names of Krishna, Krishna himself, by revealing that even when he was on the planet, the people that had personal association, some of them went to the higher planets within this universe. But those that were favorable to Krishna, they went to the spiritual world, which is why Krishna came here in the first place, is to take those with him that he came for. And so in this age, we are being given, because as Kali progresses, the forces working in this planet is also progressing. And we, as devotees, by taking up this chanting, we have to overcome the forces that are in this world right now acting in order to be able to reveal to the world the value of this chanting. And this chanting is given to us not only to free us after we're out of this life, but to enable us to use the senses of these physical bodies to the greatest extent they were made to be able to be used. Because as we chant and we purify the mind, because you're forced to have to control the mind when you already set yourself in the mode, I'm going to chant 16 rounds. And you have determined in your mind you're going to chant 16 rounds. You sit down and you start chanting. And then thoughts start entering the mind. Outside, what's the weather like? Telephone rings. Lots of telephones ringing. So many things enter in the mind, and we gain the ability to recognize, oh, that's not me. That's not me worried about the temperature outside, it's the mind. The mind is in constant movement. And when we engage it in Krishna's energy, which this mahā-mantra is, then we relieve it. We relieve it of the effects of the material energy that has constantly been involved with. And we give it the ability to become free to actually then dedicate and concentrate upon the spiritual nature and quality of the Supreme Person himself, Sri Krishna. So we are being given by Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu more confidential knowledge than that which was even given on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, coming out of the very mouth of Krishna himself, in this form that Krishna has now taken as Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu, because he is Srimati Radharani and Krishna combined in the same body. Now Christians have a concept they call the Trinity. And in this way, they reveal God's relationship with man, taking different forms. So they have the idea that he is the Father of all, manifesting in this world as a Son, and then manifesting as what we call Paramatma within the body. So that's one concept. That's a personal revelation that Christians receive from their Guru, right? Krishna consciousness takes that a little further to give us the understanding more complete as to the nature of love itself. So if we, with an unbiased mind, if we have that, if anybody has that, but we look at the nature of love. Love we are, as human beings, looking at as activities that is reciprocation of other human beings. Human beings are having this experience with one another that they're calling love. Krishna is revealing where the source of love is. And from his innermost self, Krishna's innermost self, then this love manifests in its completeness, and because of the nature of the completeness of God's personality, every aspect of that personality can only be known in the completeness of a human form. So thereby we see in the manifestation of who we call the Panchatattva. These are 5 aspects of the personality of Godhead. We have Krishna Caitanya in the form of Chaitanya. He is the avatar bringing to us, by his own power, the golden age for us to become witnesses of the effects of the chanting of his holy name. Then we have Lord Nityananda, who's manifesting as Krishna's sublime ecstatic bliss. Nitya Ananda, eternal ecstasy, eternal bliss. But he's also manifesting as a brother. And this is another aspect of Krishna's personality. So, being a brother, being a father is not unique to human beings, but it originates in the personality of Godhead. So similarly, this origin of love itself manifesting, the origin of all the relationships that we are having with one another, we are getting a little bit of what Krishna reveals in the totality of his manifestation. And see, he's revealing this now, at this specific time in history, because now the powers of evil are so mounting. And now Krishna is opening up the treasure house of love of God in order to fill us up with all the knowledge we need to break through these barriers that people have made in their minds about the ways of God, and to help them understand Krishna's not our enemy. Krishna, holding all power in his hand, is our greatest friend. He's not looking to destroy us or wipe us out because he's mad at us. He's giving us a process by which we can find the greatest purpose of life, and at the end of life, experience the most beneficial reward that this human life has to offer. And that's what this incarnation of Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu has come here for, the deliverance of all of us that have the ability to hear the truth that he is manifesting in this age, for all of us to be fully equipped, because he has come not only for us on this planet, but through the answering the prayers of Hare Kṛṣṇa, which we also see in this Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, that Hare Kṛṣṇa's prayers are revealed as that even superior to the prayers of Jesus Christ himself. By Jesus Christ's words, only those who would believe on him could be saved. Isn't that what it says in the Bible? In fact, it makes it a requirement. You have to believe on him in order to be saved by the process that he is giving. But here is another distinct difference being made by what they are calling, quote-unquote, salvation. Salvation means becoming free from something, right? You're saved from something. But then what is the end result of that salvation? And for them, it's this same result that was hoped for by all the participants in the battle of Kurukshetra. And they all were hoping for a kingdom in heaven. They all want to go to the kingdom of heaven. Very distinctly, we are being given the realization in a devotee's mind, any destination within this universe is compared to hell. Because all the living entities that are granted the privilege of dwelling in these heavenly planets have to come back, because those who are looking for a reward of pious activities, because of the nature of love, you have to remember, God is love. And the problem we have with that is, He will give us what we ask for. So this is why we have to purify the desires of our hearts. Now, we got here by desire, but where are we? Are we inside of a room? Or are we contained in a prison house? That this body is in effect a prison house. We can't fly. Birds can fly, and they're lower forms of life than we are. Why did they have more freedom than we do if we are such free moral agents? But we're limited. It's like, I can't read your mind. But there are lower forms of life than we as human beings are that can, in fact, knowing the act of your thoughts of your mind, they respond to the activities of human beings. These plants, we have a plant that we water together every morning that is manifesting on this planet as another extension of God's love. But you can't just go outside and grab any plant and think that it's a sacred plant because it's manifesting as a plant. But when you become Krishna conscious, you come to see the value of all life. Look at these trees. Just an old tree, right? But you take all these trees and look at what they're producing from their very bodies. Each year, look at an apple tree. You get about 1,000 pounds, half a ton of food, which is almost enough food for a human being for an entire year. And they produce this year after year after year after year. And then we have some plants of an herbal nature. Krishna says, I am the healing herb. So what does that mean? So among all the living beings that are taking the forms of plants, some of them, from desire, we acquire abilities. And so the desire to help other living entities in the form of human beings is granted by God, who has the ability to give us that ability. Just as we see in the human form of life, some people with that desire to help other human beings, they take the profession of becoming a doctor. So they learn all the various principles of the physical body. If those who have been doctors violate the laws of God and they have to fall down again, then they can take lower forms of life. And in this life, one doctor may be able to heal. He may be able to heal 10 people every day. He's performing, activities, surgeries, different things like that enable him. If you take birth as an herb or a plant, you might not ever be discovered. You take birth as that in the wild somewhere, and nobody even knows you exist. Even though you have great beneficial qualities. And many of us, the same way, we have great beneficial qualities to be able to help the consciousness of the planet be raised to that of Krishna consciousnness, so that we can see what's coming, and that we can see by the desire of Krishna's heart that he reveals to us what he wants to give to us. You can't give to a child what they're not up to the standard of being able to be responsible for, right? So similarly with knowledge. Knowledge can be just as much a means of our downfall as it is for us to be able to help others in the world. We have to use it. We have to direct our thoughts, our propensities, our desires mostly towards that supreme origin person whose qualities single living being and every single form of life. But in the form they're taking now, you can't make the tree Krishna conscious. But because we are in a form of life that can create this mahā-mantra, we are in a form of life that can give them liberty by chanting. And when you chant out there, you might not even think you're having an effect on anybody but yourself. But Krishna, from the words of your mouth, performs the activities by the sound vibration of his name that he wants done. So even your desires don't totally get in the way, because Krishna's going to fulfill what he wants done by his name. And if we read Caitanya-caritāmṛta, we find out he's going to bring back, there's going to be a point in time, and I suspect it's about 5,000 years from now, which will be about the peak of the golden age. The whole universe is going back to God. That's what's revealed in Caitanya-caritāmṛta. That doesn't mean that everyone, and then they'll be empty. It doesn't mean like that. But Krishna is making available this knowledge now, like never before, that the inhabitants in the most degraded age, which this is, and if the mahā-mantra has its way, we'll have seen the worst of it, and the best can be in the future for this golden age to manifest as it is for the fulfillment. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, if we want to sing eternally, which is what this is the opportunity for us being given by Krishna himself in the form of Lord Caitanya. This is the Sankirtan band. This is the eternal Sankirtan band that Lord Caitanya is inviting all of us to be a part of by simply singing the holy names of God. They give relationship, they give purification, they give experience of love, they give experience of power and the presence of God's all protection and his caring. And then when we read even these literatures that are said to be introductory, we find even in these introductory literatures such advanced teachings of psychology, not available in even what is considered today to be the most advanced schools of thought in parapsychology. Read from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar of devotion. And this reveals to us the reward of the relationship we're having with one another through association, because of the nourishment the soul gets by that association. Because we are associating with love through Krishna's name, through the chanting of Krishna's name. That love giving us realization of what we are, the nature of itself, then it extends into our relationships with one another and gives us realization of the meaningful experience that relationships are supposed to be. Right now you go out in the world and there's a tremendous amount of fear. These cities, they have such high rates of crime. If you compare the city streets of even 50 years ago when I was a boy, 60 years ago, you go out into any major city and they were bustling. People were filling the city, going about doing their businesses, everybody worked, everybody felt they had a purpose and a need to be out there to contribute to society. But fear now, in a lack of cooperation amongst governments, is ruling and causing troubles in the minds of so many people who are supposed to be living with free wills, to be able to perform activities. See, when government functions properly, everyone becomes satisfied. And that's what we see in the cities built by Krishna, in the city of Ayodhya. And the cities not only are people getting along, but the effects of just breathing the air in these cities, because everything they're doing together, whether it's growing crops or whether it's traveling down to the store, whatever, it's all being done for the sake of love, for the sake of pure love of God. Sometimes I feel when I use the word love, because it has been so contaminated by so many misconceptions about the force and the power that love is. But when we combine the reality and the realization of the person that God is and the realization of the nature of love, then we see what we have being given to us as an opportunity to experience every day. That's what this Krishna consciousness movement is for. The perfection of human beings and the perfection of human experience. So we can be happy, so we can know the substance we're made of. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Not happiness, but bliss. Bliss. Extreme happiness. Self-satisfying happiness. It gives you the satisfaction, the feeling that you don't need to go anywhere. Krishna is here as the solution to every problem there is, and as the power, as the force that's going to transform the consciousness of the human beings on this entire planet, till this planet is made once again, as it has been before, into a heavenly planet. There's fear right now amongst the scientific community of what in fact could happen to the planet in the near future, because they are realizing the difference in degrees between ice melting and ice freezing is 2 degrees. And there is a huge amount of ice on this planet, bigger than most of the continents even. Some of the continents, especially combined, we have north and south. Ancient prophecies of many prehistoric civilizations who do not expose their teachings to the rest of the world have prophetic teachings saying the time of the melting is coming soon now. 34 years, the geologists who have been studying the structure of the earth, who have been able to predict earthquakes in certain parts of the world by studying how the formations and layers of the earth are. They're saying that this San Andreas fault, which runs for thousands of miles, which if in effect was actually going to fall into the ocean, as they say the whole state of California could be on the verge of falling into the ocean. They're saying that this fault is 34 years overdue. So, this is not something that we need to be afraid of, but to take note of that people who are on spiritual paths receive all kinds of future knowledge of things to be and what to do. Krishna will in you, being himself, divine knowledge, absolute knowledge, perfect knowledge, according to time and circumstance, will give you the means. He says he is the purpose, he is the ability in man. So that which we are finding ourselves the ability to perform, we can know that's being given to us by Krishna. And then as we apply that each and every day, it is just an assurance to us that when the time comes that we do need to cry out to Krishna, because we have already been on that path every day, trusting Krishna to open the door we saw closed, and have been witness of how many doors he's opened after 40-some years. I've been on this path. And those doors just keep opening. Because Krishna is in control, and Krishna is taking care of all of his devotees. We have examples. I've spoken this before. I don't want to repeat myself too many times. As many times I've heard Śrīla Prabhupāda's lectures, I've never heard him repeat himself. I've never heard him repeat the same lecture twice. But we have experiences of the power of Krishna. You know, these very dire circumstances that happen when these demons want to destroy other human beings. Then when in New York, you know, what was it, the Trade Center got hit by these airplanes, by terrorists, right? There were parts of the building falling down. There was a devotee walking in the street underneath the building, right next to another person, never saw him before. But boom, a piece of metal fell down from the building, killed that person walking next to the devotee immediately, just dead. Cut their head right off. And the devotee just kept on. Didn't get touched. Another devotee was supposed to be, he was late for work, supposed to be in the building. As he got out of the bus and looked up, there's the plane just striking into the place where his office is in the building. The protection of God. He takes care of his devotees. Another time in an airport, devotees waiting in line to get tickets, to get boarding passes, right? Two devotees, one devotee says, I'm going to go around the other side and pick up a magazine or something. He walked around, and all of a sudden there's machine gun fire going on in the airport. He took shelter underneath a stairway, and there was a wall he took shelter from. Then another person came right next to him. Machine gun fire going off, people dying, you could hear people screaming. The person sitting right next to this devotee turned his head out to take a look if everything was clear. Boom, 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 he got killed right then and there. He just died. The devotee didn't get touched. He just waited. And this is another thing Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, what you will find when you take up Krishna consciousness. And in your mind, you know Krishna to be the controller of everything. Then you know you don't have to start manipulating things anymore. You don't have to look at yourself as the controller. But by surrender to Krishna, you can put yourself in a trusting position. Krishna, whatever you want from me, I'm willing. I'm surrendering to allow your will to work in my life. Krishna compares that to a spider that waits. He sets his trap, and then he just waits. Just sits there and waits. So, we perform our sadhana in the morning. We perform our japa. We do our duty, our dharma, what we're supposed to do. We carry out our daily activities, and automatically, you don't have to look for happiness. It comes automatically. Śrīla Prabhupāda says, when you're born, already you have been born with that which you deserve. So that which is your good fortune, it's already determined before you got here. So you may go to great lengths and efforts. This all proves the sincerity of your heart. But the limits of your wealth, the limits of your ability are already built into the circumstances. As limited to that which we seek outside of Krishna consciousness. But after surrendering to Krishna, there's no more limitations. There are no more limitations. When I came to this movement, I had practiced Christianity for about 12 years. And I developed the desire to want to give the gift I felt was God's gift to humanity at the time. God's love being, to me, what I knew at the time was Jesus Christ that He sacrificed for humanity. But in order to do that, I wanted to have a radio show. And in order to do that, I felt I would have to go to school, learn how to, go to broadcast school, go to electronic school, all this stuff, being a radio broadcasting network. But I also wanted to teach school. I had so many. I wanted to travel around the United States. I wanted to be able to sell things. And all these things got satisfied. I came to the movement. I was able to teach school, to teach kids, young children, a wonderful experience for years. I got to have a radio show when I didn't have to own a radio broadcasting network. Got on the radio show in Windsor, broadcasting every week to 10,000 people or so in the immediate Detroit area. Later on, their broadcasting network would be bigger, and then they were broadcasting. Now they're broadcasting 10 times that. But see, I had desires, and our desires, which we see an end to being able to fill from our own perspectives, thinking what the perfection of that is. But when we surrender our wills to Krishna, then He can show us the possibilities for all of our desires to be fulfilled with the purity of the force fulfilling them, not our own endeavors, but the prayer to Krishna. Please, Krishna, I'm surrendering to your will. You use me as you want me to be used, and perfect me. Perfect these senses. That's why He gives us the guidance of the four regulatory principles, so that we can use these bodies to the greatest extent possible. Of course, many of us, like myself, up until all the way through my teenage years, I misused this physical body, and so I'm still suffering from the effects of those things I did 60 years ago. But, see, one of the greatest secrets as well, very little known to human beings, revealed by the Supreme Person Himself. In one verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am that sex life in marriage, in regulated marriage. And in this verse is contained, if you will allow your chanting, pray to Krishna to give you understanding of this. I wear this color because this color has been designated as a color worn by those who no longer want to enter into marriage, who finish with marriage, right? I'm a celibate monk. So what is the value of that? Human beings now, all of us, we've been brought into this world by a procreative process that is inferior to the way human beings in the beginning were brought into existence. From the body of one living entity. For example, the ruler of the world at one time, his name was Ikshvaku. He was the son of the sun god. Sun god's name was Vivishwan. I gave this empirical science to Vivishwan. Vivishwan gave it to his son Manu. In fact, Manu wrote a treatise for mankind to be able to function. This was written thousands, if not millions, of years ago, with far superior forms of government for mankind to be able to function with everyone satisfied by the results of the effects of government playing in society. But Manu giving this knowledge to his son Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku was born by Manu's sneeze. He sneezed, and a soul came out of his body called Ikshvaku, who then became the emperor of the world. Now, if you analyze which opening in the body you came out of, and which opening the nose is, we'd have to agree that the nose is a bit higher than where we came. Lord Shiva came out of Lord Brahma's body from his third eye. And see, there's an opening also at the top of the head, the Brahmarashtra. And when yogis who had perfect knowledge in such a yuga, by the practice of the principles they were given at that time to go back to God, then they could lead from the very topmost place. When you see a child recently born, you see a pole about this big, a little section on the top of their head that's soft, and it moves with the heart, right? So that's the opening they entered the body. And so these yogis, what they do in meditation, they cut the tongue, and they stretch the tongue with each cutting, and they seal it with turmeric until the tongue reaches about down here. Right? Then when the time comes for them to go to another planet, read the book, Easy Journey to Other Planets. There is the means of human beings in past generations that they had to visit other planetary systems. There is a universal seat. Indra sits on a seat as well, controlling the heavenly planets. But these planets are working in conjunction with each other. They have the ability to visit one another. And we, as human beings on this planet, having been born from these lower places, now being driven by our false egos. We're being driven by our false egos. This opening that we have come through is evidence of the fact that we got here by desire to be the enjoyer. How much enjoyment do you think there is by sneezing someone out of your body? But see, people are using the function of reproduction, imitation-wise, to experience a pleasure that's not a pleasure at all, but a cause of suffering. And then at the end of life, they're wondering why they're having so many dysfunctional experiences with the human bodies. We're using our human bodies for things they were not made to be used for. And then we wonder why they don't work after. It's the same way with any machine. If we don't use it for what they're made for. And then Krishna gives us by these guidances, telling us what to use them for. And then, see, we don't have the ability to produce children with these bodies that we have because of the nature of these bodies are having come out from the place that they came out from. But we do have the ability to control consciousness. And in that, we see by evidences of those who have themselves brought forth the kind of children they wanted to bring into the world. We can see even Kapila Deva himself, out of a request from his parents, he met Krishna himself because his parents asked to bring a child into the world that would have similar qualities as Krishna had. But in that request, Krishna looked all over and couldn't find anyone. So he said, I'll come myself. So, the consciousness that the Father has at the moment he is giving his wife the seed that they will protect for that seed's lifetime, will in fact inspire the specific quality of soul that is in the Father's body by arousal of consciousness. What you are thinking at that moment, I'm speaking of the males, what you're thinking at that moment, with a control mind, will help you recognize this conversation we have with one another when we're married as an enticing, alluring. The science is that it's actually a means of recognizing the qualities that we will bring into this world to the other souls that are coming. So we recognize those beautiful aspects of the person we love in order to realize that those aspects can, in effect, be the cause of bringing forth better human beings than we are. Because for the most part, I know probably 99.99% of our parents didn't concentrate on that form of yoga when we were brought into the world. We're all engaging in this act for the pleasure and even being taught by the medical association that entering into it with the thought of enjoying it is the way you're going to give your mate the pleasure they want. But this is all false ego. All false ego. And Krishna, in just one little statement, how do I get this realization? You get this realization from the chanting. Krishna will give you every secret there is to know about everything in life by the union you make with him, by the conversation you carry on with him in your heart of hearts when you're chanting in the morning to become purified. You have questions. You have questions about work. You have questions about interactions you've had with people through the day prior. You have questions about the future. Krishna has the answer to every one of your questions. And he has brought you to this point in advancement in your life. This is the edge of spiritual advancement of the entire universe. We were the last reported planet Lord Caitanya came to in this universe. From the vision we see of Ādi-līlā Thakur, right now Lord Caitanya is situated on a golden throne. I suspect. See, because Brahma, in the form of Namacharya is a very significant title to be given by this form of Lord Caitanya. Namacharya means he is the perfect example of the Dharma that Krishna is giving for this age, as that Lord Brahma surrendering to Lord Caitanya. That's the throne that he was on, Lord Brahma. When Lord Brahma stole Krishna's cows and cowherd boys, he had a surrendering time that he was surrendering to Lord Krishna, and he actually apologized to Krishna. So they had previously shaken hands before, and the first shaking hands that ever took place. But see, what this reveals as well, with the stealing, demigods are in positions of control that cover over their own minds to give them the ideas that they are supremely powerful. And so until they are brought to personal association with Krishna, a lot of them, because they receive worship as well, without the connection to Krishna. But now we see from Bhakti Vinod's vision, all 33 million demigods are worshiping Lord Caitanya. So this same activity we're taking part in, we think is unique to the earth and unique to all the temples we established around the world. But now, all the demigods are also, they're worshiping Lord Caitanya. This that we chant in that prayer, Śrīla Prabhupāda. Oh no, it's the other prayer, sorry, that's the Sunday prayers that we will be singing at 7 o'clock. These are all pertaining to the golden throne that Lord Caitanya is seated on, being worshipped by all the demigods of the universe. See, and that is how order is going to be restored in the universe. And the effective wave of that is going the prophecies that say that they will be melting, also, as our prophecies say that there will be a restoration of such a yuga within Kali Yuga, Śrīla Prabhupāda says in the report, that this is going to bring about the making of a heavenly planet, this earth. And I've been talking, I don't know, many of you may have experience now with AI. Anybody experiencing a conversation they're having with artificial intelligence with these robots? I agree that from the looks I'm getting, most people that you all think is pretty nonsensical stuff. But see what it is, Yukta-vairagya is a principle that we use in Krishna consciousness. Before Śrīla Prabhupāda came to the United States, it was never thought as favorable to Krishna consciousness to leave the favorite land of India. And so, amongst Śrīla Prabhupāda's godbrothers, who were disciples of his guru, was the instruction. They did not even wear shoes. They didn't wear shoes, what to speak of airplanes. But then, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta used an automobile, a vehicle, when they became made. So, the principle of Yukta-vairagya applies in that we can use everything in this world that can be used to advance Krishna consciousness. So now, if you're going to go speak to a group of people, maybe a group of engineers, right? And you don't have any background in engineering, but you want to give to them knowledge about Krishna. So this AI, by simply asking these robots, they can give you subject matter, drawing up in a matter of seconds, up to the date data, precisely, that you may want to know about. You don't know how many people in the world there are right now, how many people are being born in a second, how many people are dying. All this data is available. So I have been asking this AI robot, Alexa, they have all kinds of them, but I've been asking about this melting of the ice caps. So she is saying that the modern day scientists are predicting that this will happen in 3 years from now. So, Chittapada, who's a full-time devotee here, usually takes part in cooking and preparation of prasadam. He went to India just recently and he consulted with some astrologers, because it's also common belief and knowledge, I guess now even worldwide, that people have concern that the South and North Poles are going to be melting. So these astrologers are saying that it will be within 2 years. There is Native American peoples, indigenous peoples we would call them, people that have been on this continent, and their history goes back time immemorial, just like Bhagavatam does, who were given future prophecies to see what was coming in the future. And they take their prophecies from that which was written by seers thousands of years ago, written, hidden on the walls of a pyramid. And there's only like 1 or 2 people on the whole planet that can interpret the writings that this is written in. They call it the Speaking Mountain. But according to the Speaking Mountain, it's going to happen this year. I have been in knowledge of this for the past probably 40 years, since the 70s, well, about 50 years now. And never, in all that time, has anyone that I've known of ever from the Hopi Nation said or made statements that this is coming now. But they are saying that this year. So, I've been praying for some time to Krishna to understand how to give us the protection that we will need through this kind of disaster. disaster, because you got to realize if every port, and all the continents of the world are destroyed by flooding, it will become a very serious disaster with abilities to have food, water, and the basics of life. So, if it comes the way the scientists are saying, it's going to be for 1 or 2 miles inland, but it will be a world event. It's going to come on every single continent. But if it's only a mile or 2, then all people have to do who are on coastal shores is just have an emergency route to go in a few miles, 5, 10, 15 miles. The Talking Mountain says it will be 20 miles. The Talking Mountain says that Michigan will be divided in half, practically speaking. Where that thumb is, there will be water coming in there also. I don't know how disastrous this thing will be for us. We're right here on the water. It's amazing how strong this house is. It's concrete walls about this thick, you know. But being that I have known these things, when I first came to Krishna consciousness, it left such an impression on my mind. But when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I was told by all the authorities at that time that they didn't know what they were talking about because they're just an old bunch of Indians, you know. But I still held it in my heart, and I knew what my experiences were amongst the people, because I had been given instructions by other indigenous peoples of the value of these people considered sacred by their own people. So just as what is happening around the world amongst peoples is we're judging one another according to the cultures we're born in. And this is a big stumbling block to enable us, that keeps us from being able to communicate with people. Because these walls and these barriers that we're making against each other, in reality, we're not even different races. We don't even know what different races of people are, because we're looking at different colors of skin as being a means of being able to determine what race we are. But when you find out that there are actually serpentine people who have the skin of snakes, there are all kinds of different forms that have 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head and eyes, that walk on 2 legs, that we are not aware of. There are places in this earth that, for the most part, people do not even know exist. And these things are pointed out in Bhagavatam. And these things we will all be made aware of as communion with these prehistoric civilizations is once again restored. Because as this golden age more and more manifests, and knowledge of God, it says knowledge of God will cover the earth like the waters cover the seas. What I have come to believe that means is, because Śrīla Prabhupāda said, the great-great-great-grandchildren of his disciples would be born with the perfection of the cities. This is a very significant statement being made. This is talking about a time in which it will be thought of as normal for people to be able to fly, or to become lighter than the lightest, or to be able to disappear and just become very small where you can see them. These are abilities that the soul has with it, that it is able to manifest in many different forms of life. But once coming to the stage of human being and brought to full realization of its potent abilities, Krishna empowering the soul, then, according to time and circumstance, he gives human beings abilities that they wouldn't otherwise be able to have, that they can perform and they don't do it to be recognized as some great personality or anything like that, because they are void of false egos. And that's what this whole process is bringing us to, the state of becoming free from our own desires, from our own will, from our own demands, to be able to receive the completeness of Krishna's love in these bodies, and know what extent Krishna has gone to give us an invitation to come back to the real home, where there is no such thing as impossible, where everything is eternal. Every step is a